44-year-old Lori Kaplan went for her annual mammogram using a technique that produced pictures in 3D rather than the standard flat images.
This way, they have such a better view that they see way more things than they ever could, and they're able to detect a lot more. And it hurts less, actually.
We are always a little slow to use the word breakthrough when it comes to medical findings, for all too often it becomes a bit much on the side of hyperbole. But in the case of news this week regarding breast cancer detection and how it could save tens of thousands of lives in short order, that becomes truly remarkable. The doctor is in every Friday. We welcome in Newsmax Deputy Health Editor Nick Tate joins us here in the studio. Nick, always a pleasure to see you.
Good to be with you.
This really caught me when I saw this 3D mammography, because if you look, it really is able to detect cancers at a level they've never been able to see before. And knowing some people who have been affected by it in their family, they were astounded to see this. How much of a real breakthrough is this, and where can it go, and how fast?
It's a real leap forward. It really is, because the technology exists. It's available now. It's not something that's under development. If you think about the difference between 2D images, if you think about it, Disney cartoons from the 50s or the 60s, say, compare them to Avatar. The visual is much better. You can get that 3D. You can see everything from various angles, and what that gives is radiologists and doctors a better look at a breast where they're not sure. Particularly with younger women, it's harder to tell whether something that looks suspicious like cancer truly is cancer. So to find out, they have to do biopsies. Painful. Women go through these procedures, and of course the anxiety is raised as a result of that. But this, to a greater degree of accuracy, can really pinpoint those cancers, which allows you to get treatment sooner, and it also allows them to rule out those false positives more easily.
This doesn't, as the report said, it doesn't stop cancer. It doesn't prevent cancer, and that's
right.
what a lot of people. Oh wow, it prevents. It doesn't. But it still comes down to, and we say this a million times, I think, with just about every sort of malady, the sooner you find it, the better chance you have of surviving.
That's right. What kills people in cancer is not the initial tumor itself. It's the spread of that tumor beyond, in this case, the breast or its original place, to some other organ where it becomes invasive in the body, and that's what kills people. So stopping them early, particularly when they're aggressive, through these kinds of techniques and these technologies, is really the key to survival.
Is the thing here, though, if there's one negative to this, it's the cost that is involved. And then here we go. We have to find out if insurance covers it, what it covers, how it covers. It still could be something that many women could not get easily because of insurance.
You're right about that. Cost is one concern. A typical mammogram costs between $200 and $300. This is about $100 more. Typical mammogram is now covered by insurance for most women, but this procedure is not, because it's relatively new. The other concern is there's a higher level of radiation. Slightly higher level of radiation with these new 3D mammogram, combo mammograms. So as they refine the techniques, as they refine the technologies and they become more common, the likelihood is insurance companies will cover them. If in fact Medicare starts to cover them, they will become more standard in treatments, and I think that monitoring that radiation level it may come down as well as the technology improves.
No one covers it now, though, do they?
That's correct. Right now you would pay that extra $100 out of pocket, but for women who are at risk, think about it. That extra $100 investment in a better diagnosis not only lowers your anxiety, but can speed treatment if you actually do have cancer, and can rule out those false positives. So it's costly, but like with all new medical technology, you're weighing the costs and the benefits, and for a lot of women it really is a better benefit.
A real breakthrough. A paralyzed man implanted with a thought-reading microchip apparently was able to make his fingers and hand move using only his own thoughts. This is groundbreaking, but is it really just so new that we're barely scratching the surface on this?
We're at the very leading edge here with this. I mean, this is what I will say, this is one of my favorite medical tech stories of the week. There's been a lot. It's been a banner year for health news. There's a lot out there, but what they did is they took a pea-sized chip and they implanted in this gentleman's brain. He had a paralysis from a diving injury. He's 23 years old, from Ohio, and what they were able to do was link that chip through a computer that is attached to a sleeve on his arm and go directly to the muscles in his arm, so he can move them just by thinking about moving them. Now, when you and I move our hands, we think about moving our fingers. But what happens with people who are paraplegics or quadriplegic, they lose that ability. There's a break, a neurological break that breaks those signals down. This reactivates it, and really, if you think about veterans, if you think about people with brain injuries, accidents, this really will renew their ability to use their bodies again.
And we're probably talking about the decades in the future to get something like this, because it has to be taken, you have to miniaturize it, you have to test it. There's so many things that have to be done. It's not as if maybe in the next 2 or 3 years you're going to have, I remember a movie called The Terminal Man with
right.
George Siegel, which again, showing my age, and I'm 9,000 years old, but it was that kind of a movie. Things implanted in his brain, let them take command of his brain, but this is probably something that we're decades away from.
Well,
still.
I'm not so sure about that, Ed. I mean, it does
Good
have
to hear.
it does have kind of a science fiction feel about it. But now that they've demonstrated what they call the proof of concept, that it does work, they've done it in this one man. They're trying it in 4 others, and if it does, it proves as successful and safe in those individuals, they could move quickly to FDA approval, and it could be out there within a couple years, we're hearing.
Keep experimenting. That's all I keep saying. If you have a chance, give the FDA, let them go in there, experiment all you can. Throw out all the books and just go ahead and give this a try.
Clear the way.
A couple of minutes that we got left here. Fat. Ending the war that nobody started. Now, all of a sudden, we've been told fat is bad, but now there are doctors coming out and saying, wait a minute now, it might just not be fat, it might be something else. Look, we're still a fat nation, one way or another, that has to get over that and has to get ourselves healthier.
But the reason is why. I mean, what the new thinking on fat, we've been told since the late 70s and the 80s that the best way to avoid being fat is to avoid eating fat. But the new research shows that that's not entirely true. Couple things to consider. There are good fats, such as those in the Mediterranean diet, nuts, fatty fish, certain cuts of beef even. And there are bad fats. I'm thinking trans fats, donuts, there are good fats and bad fats.
Everything that winds up in every office first thing in the morning, right? Monday through Friday. There
That's
you go.
right. The new thinking suggests that you don't just eliminate all fats entirely. And in fact, as we've done that in the last 30 years, we replace those fatty foods by eating foods that are loaded with sugar, loaded with additives, loaded with high fructose corn syrup. I saw a number this morning I was reading. Since 1970, our consumption of high fructose corn syrup, which is the primary sweetener in sodas and baked goods, has gone up 9,000%. So there is concern that the replacement for fat is actually really what's driving the obesity crisis. Since the 70s, more of us have become heavier. 2 out of 3 Americans are either overweight or obese. That wasn't the case in 1970. So the suggestion that low fat would bring those numbers down has not proven true. And the new thinking is consume the good fats, lower your consumption of carbs and high sugary foods, and that's really the best way to drive down obesity.
Can we just say that every time this conversation comes around, the simple phrase is what somebody told me, 3 words, don't be stupid?
Well, some of it is common sense. I mean, does anybody really think a donut is a health food? No, it'll never be. Neither will fried foods. But some of it is in moderation. I mean, we really should be following the Mediterranean diet. Look at what's happening in Italy. Look at what's happening in Europe with people eating olive oil. They're eating nuts, which are fatty, but it's healthy fat. That's what we really need to be doing, and putting down the donuts.
You have just crushed everybody in the directorial chair right now. All of the directors, producers, all going, donuts aren't.
Sorry,
They're not
guys.
dietetic.
Sorry, guys. It's the truth.
You crushed them all. Thanks a lot for killing us here, all right? Thank you very much for coming in, Nick.
Good to be here.
Nick will come in, as always, on Friday. He'll give us a little bit of what's coming up on the medical side of things. And then every day, Monday through Friday, we here on Midpoint will take everything into account, and we will question everything. Stay with us.